Sega Saturn. I just wanted to do that for fun. But today's hardware review is for the Sega Saturn Saroo cartridge. Now, what is a Saroo, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you did, friend, and you stopped by the right video. This is a cartridge for the Sega Saturn. Now, even though it says optical drive emulator, and that is the main draw, as you can run games from your little SD card into the cartridge, and it boots up to the cartridge slot before either the video CD compartment or the main CD-ROM drive. So it bypasses the region lock and runs games from the SD before it tries to load from the CD. But the cool thing is, if you like using your CD-ROM drive, you can still use that with the Saroo, unlike options such as the Fenrir, which completely replaces the CD-ROM drive. And this is much less expensive, which is a great thing, right? I mean, at least I think so. But the cool thing is, this is not just an ODE. It's special, because you can also use it as a memory card. Even if your Saturn's battery for the internal memory is kaput, doesn't matter, because this basically stands in place of that. And it has an enormous capacity. So you can save all your games just right to the cartridge. And it doesn't matter if the game even has cartridge memory enabled, because as far as the Saturn's concerned, it thinks this is the internal memory. It's great. This also has 1 megabyte and 4 megabyte RAM expansion options, so games that require RAM expansion, good to go. So, pretty much everything except for the Sega Saturn Netlink, which also uses the cartridge slot, is available right here. It's almost the all-in-one solution. But to be fair, there's not many of us lunatics that will be playing Sega Saturn games online with real hardware. Conceivably, a future version of this might enable that in some way, but probably not super necessary. So, again, this is a much more affordable option for those of you who are looking to play backup copies of Sega Saturn games on real hardware. It's not as high of a compatibility rate with all of the retail Saturn releases as something like the Fenrir. And at least as of firmware 0.7, which this is on as of this recording, doesn't seem to play as nice with homebrews and fan translations and such. So if that's your main shtick with a Saturn ODE, you might want to look at the Fenrir or similar options. I would say Satiator is a last resort, even though it is easy to install and doesn't require you to open up your system. It's pretty expensive for the kit that you get. I would go with this. The Saroo is interesting because unlike the other products I just mentioned, where if you buy one of those, like, it's built to a set standard, and it's considered like a completed product, right? Whereas this was started as like an independent project, never quite finished, but the prototype firmware and what I assume was the prototype architecture for the cartridge was picked up by a series of Chinese manufacturers, and it was just like off to the races on AliExpress, and eventually the original creator was kind of like beckoned back to the project and has been working to update it, but different manufacturers have just been making like their own versions of this, and it's kind of all over the place as far as like manufacturing standard and sometimes even firmware standard. But it has come a long way. I was pretty dubious when these first started showing up. It seemed like the cartridges were pretty cheap and the firmware did not have as many capabilities or as much versatility as it does now. Even though it's not considered like the first full build because we're on 0.7, right? But it has a lot of fantastic functionality. And these cartridges, you have to be careful still. You have to know what you're looking out for. But pretty good shell, pretty good chips. They're either made from new chips, which is really what I recommend you hold out for. Some are made with refurbished chips. Now, on one hand, I like the idea that someone is taking e-waste and recycling them into a new usable product. But it's a big unknown as to where these refurbished chips are being sourced from. I would like to think that it's nice if they're coming from items that would have ended up in a landfill, and at least they're getting repurposed for something useful. But some have reported that some chips are being harvested from like action replay carts and other things for the Saturn that are still, usable and are kind of like, vintage items now. So I would kind of hate to think that something's being destroyed for one of these. So I'd say hold out for new chips. And you want to make sure the edges of the pins are beveled. I'm a little upset with my seller because overall it's as advertised and is pretty decent quality, except it kind of did me dirty. These pins are not beveled. Now, I was gentle and I managed to coax this very delicately into my Saturn's cartridge slot, and it worked fine. I think unfortunate my Saturn was not very badly abused, so it worked out. But I'd say if you are unlucky and get one with not beveled edges, and don't have the equipment to bevel these yourself, or know somebody who can do it, I'd say get it in there gently, and maybe consider just never taking it out if you don't have to. Otherwise, you'll put some undue strain on your Saturn's cartridge slot. And unfortunately, build quality of the Sega Saturn is really great, except that slot. Sega kind of screwed up there. So that's what you should look out for. And also wait for a good sale on AliExpress, which happens all the time, as it turns out. This was the first thing I bought there. I was a little bit dubious, but I was like, it's fine. Now, I am not great or exceptionally savvy when it comes to the PC side of formatting your SD card and getting everything set up properly. I'm going to put links in the description to videos that do a way better job than I ever would with that stuff. But my thanks goes out to the Sega Saturn Saroo Media Group, the Sega guys, and Sega Lord X in particular, for their setup guides, their recommendations, and their impressions. But paved the way for me taking the plunge myself and unlocking most of the Saturn's retail library. So, suck it, scalpers, I'm not paying you ridiculous prices for Sega Saturn titles to be played on original hardware. You can go straight to hell. Especially those of you selling copies of Panzer Dragoon Saga and the Western version of Magic Knight Rayearth. Okay, thanks, bye. So far, I've found pretty solid. I've had a few soft locks. Because this is using the cartridge slot, it can actually load much faster than the CD drive or even other ODEs, because those other ODEs replicate the CD read speed, essentially. So this goes a lot faster. Games like Virtua Fighter load so fast it's almost as lightning fast as the arcade. I'm faster than lightning! But I've noticed can create some problems. I've noticed some audio sync issues with a select few games, but then later in the play session it cleaned itself up, so it might just be like an intermittent problem where it's actually fetching data too quickly and causing some sync issues. And attract modes tend to not work after so many cycles. I've noticed it soft locks. Doesn't seem to happen with every game though, so your kilometers may vary. And there's a handful of games that don't play nice with this yet, but when the firmware is updated again, who can say? It's like magic. The first test I'm going to demonstrate for you is Sonic 3D Blast. Now, if you've played the game yourself from a Saturn disc, or watched my Let's Play of it recently, you'll know the game has some pretty gnarly load times from disc. It was a rushed development. It didn't have time to get optimized properly for Saturn. That's one of the consequences. So here, like, I'm already used to how long the Saturn version takes to load from the map. And we're already in the action. It doesn't really factor into this section of the game. There's nothing really that needs to load. Except for when different music cues come on, like when you get the invincibility power-up. That might be ever so slightly snappier. The special stage was far and away the biggest culprit for load times, and like slowing down your playthrough. Like, it's already here! I mean, I've only been playing the Saturn version for about a year of my life. Before that, it was always the Mega Drive version. But, like, I had already become so accustomed to, like, yeah, it's... get up and get yourself a coffee in the time it takes, between stages. Ooh, shiny. Okay, so we're gonna count. Go away, wispy hair. We're gonna count. Let's see. It's normally a painfully long load from that screen to returning to the game. What was that, 9 seconds, I think? Now we can demonstrate. You can still use your CDs. Yep, Sonic Blast here. From your Saroo, you can just go right to the CD player. Now the cool thing is you can play music from your games that are on the SD card as well. I thought that was neat. And of course, as long as you have an accurate, clean rip of the images, you should have just as high quality uncompressed audio as if it was from the CD. So now we're going to run Sonic 3D Blast from the disc. So, again, just showing that any games that you want to run from disk, like if they have compatibility issues when being run from the SD card, running from the disk might still be something you want to do. Or those few games that just don't work with Saroo at all. So you can see, even just getting from the attract mode to the main menu was a bit of a pause, right? And then from start menu to selection, that was slower. Again, I wouldn't even mind the load times on the map here if there was like some sound or music to just kind of reassure me. It's like, no, it's not. It's not soft locked. Okay, so once again, we will show off the worst offender for load times in this game, which is special stages. So, I mean, what was that before? Like, a good 2-3 seconds at most transition? And that was like, this was more like 10 to 11 seconds? Shiny gems! Careful, Sonic, that emerald's chaotic. Okay, so here's probably like the worst part when running from a disc. There's just the awkwardness of this, where it's like, please tell me my game didn't freeze. Then tally. Which is always like this, there's always no sound. I counted at least 35 seconds, that might have been 40. From when the tally finished and started to fade out until we're back in the game. And on Saroo, it's about 10 seconds? 11 seconds, maybe? So, dramatic improvement. Like, easily the worst performing part of the game. And what slowed down my Let's Play the most, aside from a couple of very strange deaths. So yeah, I mean, Virtua Fighter seems to be the most dramatic difference in loading, but arguably this game needed help more, and it certainly got it from Saroo, so that's a huge thumbs up for me. So, of course, I still value having the disc, I do love this game, but unquestionably, its performance is dramatically improved by Saroo. Okay, so now if you are running from a CD and you want to go back to your Saroo, I believe you will have to still do a reset from the console itself. And there we go. So I think that's an effective demonstration. The Sega guys have already done, like, a really thorough comparison of Virtua Fighter on Saroo versus Disc, but just for my audience, I wanted to really quick just show, like, how snappy this is.
Fight! One!
Like,
Ready, go!
almost instantaneous load time. Now, you know, I'm not very good at Virtua Fighter, but, you know.
Fight! Two! Ready, go!
Actually, I like the flat shaded polygons a lot.
KO! Fight! One!
Like, do you see that? Like, you did. That was almost arcade fast. It might as well have been arcade fast.
Excellent!
And I just got an arcade fast beatdown.
Fight! Two!
Yeah, you did, Jeffrey. You did. You are the McWildists. Does she not have... Oh, come on. His health bar is gone.
Ring out!
Clearly, it's a professional channel.
Game over!
The next one I'm going to show is Sega Rally Championship. Now, even from disc, this game has pretty snappy loading times. But I'll take any excuse I can get to play
Sega
more.
Rally Championship.
What he said. Oops.
Three, two, one, go!
Conditioned reflex! To save my freaking life, I cannot get under 116 on Forest. I've gotten 115, like, and a half, I think, a couple times, but...
One, go! Easy left.
The Saroo can improve loading times. It doesn't make you better at any given
Easy
game.
left. Checkpoint. Stay left. Medium right, maybe. Long, easy left. Caution, hairpin right. Long, medium left, checkpoint.
Kind of borked that, but
Easy left. Easy left, maybe.
it also could have been a lot worse.
Medium left. Medium right, checkpoint. Easy left, maybe. Easy left, maybe. Long, medium right. Caution, stay left. Easy left. Finish!
321.05? Hey! Hey, what was my... Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
3, 2,
This is a review of Saroo, but I'm having a moment. Yeah, my best time earlier was 3:21:76. Hey, so you got to witness history here during
Go.
a hardware review.
Medium
Personal
light.
history. My other records are still on my action replay card. I haven't transferred. I guess this is a good moment to say, how you make that work is, I believe you just transfer from action replay cartridge to Saturn's real internal memory. And then I think you can copy it over to the Saroo from there, so yeah. But the review's not over. We have to honor Mark Bussler and the legacy of Classic Game Room by giving this game its own episode. But I figured, just for kicks, let's play some DoDonPachi.
Select your battle fighter. Okay.
You know, it may not be Truxton, but it's pretty fucking awesome, isn't it?
Power up. Power up.
It's so good.
Power up. Target of attack. Your mission starts now. Are you ready? Just a couple more shots.
DoDonPachi. FTW. I know, it's like, how do you tear yourself away from DoDonPachi? Well, when X-Men vs. Street Fighter is available, then you have a difficult choice. But firing this up just to show there's zero issue with Saroo picking up the 4 megabyte RAM cartridge requirement.
Come on, mon ami.
Cammy and Rogue together.
Ready. Fight! First attack.
Come on.
Can we have some moments for like how smooth this game is, how fast and fluid and beautiful, and the incredible animation. Now, we're not going to admire, even ironically, how bad I am at 2D fighters. Now, this seems to be a little more forgiving than Street Fighter 2. Or even Vampire Hunter. I haven't figured out how to use my super gauge yet. Don't at me, bro. Or sis, or NB. Or ghosts, or alien. From the nearest habitable star system. And thus, my reign of nothing comes to an end. But, hey, I'm being a professional. I'm demonstrating the RAM cartridge capabilities of the Saroo. Actually did slightly better than I expected. I didn't run off the stage like in Virtua Fighter. Oh, goodness. So, yeah. My hardware review of the Saturn Saroo. My first review on the channel. It went okay, right? I highly recommend this as long as you get a good quality cartridge from a reputable seller. Yeah, again, watch the videos that I link below, or a lot of the sellers do have pretty decent instructions for how to set this up on their seller page. So I'll tell you, the PC side of things, I have very little interest or patience in it, so it's get in and get out for me. Like, I'm more interested in managing this from the Saturn side of things, I can tell you that. But I recommend it, especially if you get it at the sale prices that I usually see, which is like $50 or less. Just hold out for those new chips and the beveled edges. I implore you. And your Saturn especially implores you. So, thanks for checking out Retro Lunacy's first hardware review, and really, like, it's officially first review of any kind on the show. I have another video planned for why I am very choosy going forward about doing reviews. So, thank you very much for watching. Hope you found that fun and informative. And if you already have one of these, or check one out because of my video, feel free to comment below and let us all know your experiences. And we can learn from each other, and as this evolves, we can experience more of the Sega Saturn library together and completely bypass all those scummy resellers. So, much love. See y'all later.